Hey everyone, welcome to my channel, Books, Curse, and Purrs. My name's Leslie. All right, good, it's in focus. Um, Now, for the month of December, I'm gonna have Double Tag Tuesday for the entire month, pretty much. I'm just really behind. And in fact, the first two tags I have were from about 3 and 4 months ago. I was tagged by Reading from the Depths. And so the first tag is an original tag, The Philosophy of Reading. And so Reading from the Depths wrote a little bit of a context for us, and that is World Turning Day is a Buddhist holiday recognizing Buddha's first sermon where he taught the Four Noble Truths, the foundation of all Buddhist philosophical thought. In celebration of the holiday, Reading from the Depths designed an original tag to explore the philosophy of our reading lives, which I thought was really beautiful. So, in keeping in line with the Four Noble Truths in the original tag sermon, the tag only has like 4 prompts, but they are all open ended enough that you can just be as chatty as we would like to be. So, the first prompt is, what is your own personal philosophy of reading? How do you think about reading? What does reading mean to you? How do you how does your reading life affect your non-reading life? So that's quite a lot going on. That first question. Um so let's start with, what is our philosophy on reading? Read whatever you want. Um I I think it's really important that just anyone read, and it could be any platform. It doesn't matter what format. Um and I'm more interested in someone just like engaging with reading rather than how do I say this? I don't consider myself like elitist or stuck up or anything, and I don't like that about other readers. Um, Actually, there's this whole celebration in August called Garb August that I haven't participated in, but one year I'll do it, and it's really just about reading books that are considered like uh, trash or pulpy, and I love that celebration of that. It's almost like the literary version of like celebrating the movie Room, it's just like, let's just have a nice time. That recently there was not that I really get into the community tea usually, but there was like a booktuber who I would check out, and I thought I would like the channel, but they kind of came up a little bit came out a little bit like stuck up to me, so I didn't really tune into the channel anymore. And they've recently gotten themselves into some hot water because they basically were like implying that readers are dumb if they like romantasy, and which is frustrating because they're really looking at a whole group of readers and telling them they're dumb. And this made no sense to me. So if you're reading articles, if you're reading a magazine, comic books, fiction, nonfiction, whatever genre, um, whatever works best for you to read, like even if it's from like your cell phone. Sometimes I feel like people look at cell phones and they think you're just yucking around, but really it's a device to access reading. So I'm more interested in that. And so that's a big part of my own um, personal philosophy. It's like however you could engage with reading and whatever works best for you, I'm open to it. Read what you want. I don't really like the judgment behind it. How do you think about reading? I love reading. And what does it mean to me? It means a whole dang lot. I think um, it's just been such a connection with me, not just like with people around me, but I think it's kind of been like a little bit of a coping mechanism with how wild the world is. But also sometimes it feels like it makes me feel less crazy when I read nonfiction and I see like, or when I learn about like past events, even if it was like the near past, and seeing how unsettling things could be. I don't know if that makes any sense. Somehow that feels kind of calming. So that makes me feel like less like crazy. Like I'm not just like someone else is acknowledging the experience of what's going on. And that can bring me a lot of peace as well. Um, how does my reading life affect my non reading life? Yeah, I think I kind of answered that. I just feel less crazy. If you get up in the morning and I can put one foot in front of the other instead of like having this like frustration build up, I feel like it becomes very therapeutic in like my real life. So the second question is, when did you first come to think of yourself as a reader? Oh, you know what? Ever since I was a little kid and I would go to the playground or I would have to go on field trips for school and I would bring a book with me because I would rather read a book than engage in whatever it was. There was like an elementary school I went to when I was like really little, and they had a requirement when you were released for break, you had to do a physical activity. Like if someone saw you just standing there or sitting, an adult would come up to you, like an authority figure would come up to you because you had to engage with like a physical activity. And that was so torture for me because I would rather just be sitting and reading during that time than playing. Which, so yes, I was a reader from a very young age. What are some goals or hopes that you have for your reading life? Uh, I think I personally know what an impact books have had in my life. I would like to explore more about how books impact other people's lives, because I think there's room for great connection through that. So that's kind of a goal in my. Will I ever get there? I don't know. So number four, what is part of your current reading life right now that is important or exciting for you? Um, honestly, I think it's the amount of nonfiction books I've read this year. I've just learned so much. And there's still like plenty of room to learn so much more. But I think what really sticks out to me is recently reading Operation Nemesis by Eric Bogosian. That really left an impression on me because the way that the story unfolds is really not letting anyone off the hook in the story for that the actions and reactions that have happened. I'll just leave it there. But it was really a tough read, a graphic read, but the author writes in also in a very pointed way, calling out like all sorts of nefarious behaviors and how they're implemented in a way that I have not yet read from an author. And I think that's something I'm really just gonna carry with me. And that kind of writing is not just important, but that's also exciting. It's exciting to know that there's someone in the world that saw what was going on through so many years of strife and like called something out. And to know that people like that exist in the world is like it's really special. All right, so that's the end of the what is it called, the philosophy of reading tag. Um, all right, so let me see. Let me back it up. Okay, so reading from the depths also tagged me in like another book tag, and it's called the perfection of reading. Um, and so this also has a little bit of a preamble. The Tibetan Buddhist instruction to live a meaningful life is to try to live the life of Bodhisattva. I'm sorry, I'm saying that wrong. A person or being who has totally dedicated their life to benefiting others. The six perfections are six types of enlightened activities that make up the Bodhisattva's conduct, which ordinary people are encouraged to try and realize in their own lives. This original book tag is celebrating those six and exploring how they might be reflected in our reading lives. So I'm sorry if I butchered any of the language there. All right, so the perfection of generosity. What is your experience of either book gifting or book receiving that was meaningful or memory or memorable for you? Um, so the example that I have, or I guess it's a bit controversial because the author is a disaster, but I have a really beautiful memory of getting like the Harry Potter books. This is when I was younger. I think I was like in my early 20s, maybe I was 20 years old. If that, I worked at a store and there was a young man like in his teens maybe, and I'm trying to figure out how to say this delicately. I just feel like he may have been someone that wasn't very like socialized. And so stepping into the working force was his like um big first leap into being socialized. And so I kind of felt like sometimes people didn't really understand him or maybe made him feel like he was weird. But I think I saw myself in him because I just saw the way he interacted and realized, oh, this is someone that probably really had their nose stuck in a book like I did growing up. So I felt like I don't know, I just felt like I understood him even though I didn't really know him well. And so I just always wanted to smooth situations over with him or just like wanted to make the extra effort with him. And that was just like a choice I made, just behavior wise, right? And I think that he just like picked up on that because I forgot why, but I don't know if it was a holiday or what it was, but I kind of felt like he just gave me this gift, and I felt like it just felt like such a big gift because he gave me the box set of the Harry Potter books, and this is like, remember, this is like 20 years ago or something like that. No, longer. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Anyways, point being, he gave that to me, and I just thought that was like a really sweet gesture. And he happened to say something about like, "Oh, you're whatever. You're so kind to me." Something about that made me want to cry, and I didn't cry, but like I cried when I got home because I felt like it was a beautiful gesture, but it also made me feel sad because it also made me feel like so many other people misunderstand him or or maybe you're even mean to him. But it's not a good feeling to feel like misunderstood. And so that moment really stuck out to me. Okay, so the second prompt is the perfection of ethical discipline. What are your best and worst reading habits? I have a terrible reading habit, which is I tend to binge read. I don't know really how to pace myself. And because of my schedule between my work schedule and my personal life and booktube, whenever I do read, I tell myself like, oh, this would be so much better and maybe healthier if you broke up how much you're reading and when. I can't do it. It's like part of my brain knows what I'm trying to do and it just like shuts off. So I'm definitely like more of a binge reader, which I don't think is a great habit, but it does work for me. So I don't know what to say about that or how to even change that. All right, so the third question is the perfection of patience. What is a book that you anxiously waited for and did it live up to the expectations you set for it? All right, so specifically trying to find books that I felt like I was anticipating. Um, Winds of Winter came out by George R. Martin, and it's part of the A Song of Ice and Fire series. I read the series, that's still not complete. And I read it like right around the time my daughter was born. I was home. I had time on my hands, so I read. That was must have been like in 2007, and so I didn't even know. I think at that point that there was a show in development. So I had like the privilege of reading, like binge reading a bunch of books that were going to become a series. And so I definitely didn't feel like the the weight as much as other people who have been reading it since the books were first published, right? Because the author writes and there's such a huge gap of time between the next book coming out. And so when Winds of Winter came out, I did have like there was a gap of years before that book came out. So that was the first time I was really feeling like the anticipation of a book. Um, and I read it, and here's the thing, George R. Martin writes so incredibly that I can't explain it. A lot didn't happen in that book, so it was slightly disappointing, but then his writing is so good that I still enjoyed it. So it was definitely like a mixed bag of an experience, and it's written in such a way that you you almost feel like he has the next book ready to go, and that book never came out. And I at this point, I don't know if he's ever gonna finish the series, so the other book was Bookshop and Bone Dust by Travis Baldry. That is a prequel to Legends and Lattes. I've talked about Legends and Lattes before. I just think it's such an adorable read. But when the prequel came out, I read it and I just didn't feel the same. I know it's going to be a different characters we're following. I was interested in experiencing Viv, the character that I think Viv is an orc. So we're getting to know Viv at like a different time in their life. And I mean, that sounds great. I think it sounds like a book that I'd really be interested in. But when I read it, I just wasn't in it. Didn't like the characters. So that was a little bit of a bummer. So prompt 4, The Perfection of Joyful Effort. What is a book or series that you found difficult to complete but found to be ultimately worthwhile? I think the Vampire Chronicles is the only it's like doesn't quite fit the prompt, but that's the only one I can think of off the top of my head. I've just had a by the way, clearly I have a whole like readathon going on about the adaptation. But I think it's an adaptation that made me go back and fall in love with Anna Rice's writing. Um, Once again, because I read Interview the Vampire. I read like actually I read a whole bunch of books in the Vampire Chronicles when I was younger, and I was really into them. But it was really that first book, Interview the Vampire, that I really loved. And then I want to say like a couple of years ago, I picked up that first book again, read it, and I had such a bad experience with it. I there are just some scenes or some parts of the book that made me feel like really uncomfortable. Um, that made me feel like not good. Like I didn't like the book, oddly enough. And wait, you know what? As I continue to watch AMC's adaptation, I think I fall in love with the prose again. But I think it's because I'm having like this I don't, like this experience of I'm thinking about like the adaptation and the books all meshed into one. But there's clearly some things in that book that like bothered me. All the while the first book being my favorite, which makes no sense. But I'm still not done with the series. I'm buddy reading the books with a group of us on Elaine is a host on Cobalt Dragon's channel. And I'm enjoying having those conversations as a group about the books because it is Gothic literature. these characters are all monster and they're all doing monstrous things, and just having like a space where we meet together and talk about talk about it all. It's like it's been a real joy. But I am glad I'm doing this because I plan to stick with it because I want to just reread them, like a big chunk of them. I'm rereading them, but also just to finish it because there's like a handful of books that were written um, that I haven't read, and I just want to know how Anne Rice wrapped up the books. Let me see. Prompt 5, the perfection of concentration. What do you do, if anything, to get in a reading zone? What is your ideal reading environment? Honestly, I think this kind of connects back to the binge reading. Um, Sometimes I think I need pressure to be productive. I do enjoy reading at night or when I'm cleaning, and that's like on the weekend. When I'm tidying up, I just like to have my headphones on and to listen to a book if I can. Nighttime is usually like a paper book format, but it's basically whenever I could squeeze the time. Sometimes when I am at work, I'll listen to an audiobook, but I have to be doing something that doesn't require, like, it has to be like data entry type things, and then I'll listen to a book, basically, is what I'm saying. Prompt 6, the perfection of wisdom. What is a book where you learn something, especially something unexpected, whether profound or mundane? Um, I think I'm gonna probably bring this up a little too much, but when I read Operation Nemesis by Eric Bogosian, I think he really displayed examples of how traumatic experiences affects someone's mental health, and how violence affects a person's mental health. And it's specific to not just violence being thrust upon like someone specifically, like let's say like yourself, but when you have to witness violence happening around you, that is also very damaging to someone's mental health. And so we just happen to, it, I just feel like the author wrote that very well in like first account situations. So that is the end for double tag Tuesday. Um, I hope you enjoyed my answer. I feel like I've been reading a lot of like uh nonfiction, so my answers aren't necessarily like filled with joy. But there are book experiences nonetheless. If you're watching this, please consider yourself tagged. I will tag a couple of people, but just keep in mind that all are welcome. And let me know if you did this tag or if anything stuck out to you. If you've checked out this person's channel before who tagged me, because I'm still kind of like, I'm basically like barely dipping into their channel. So thank you so much, Reading from the Depths, for tagging me. I appreciate you. And both these tags are just really beautiful and thoughtful. So I appreciate the tag. Just remember, life is chaos. So be kind to yourself, be kind to others, and read more books. Bye.